It was just another typical afternoon in a bustling corporate office in downtown Los Angeles. The rhythmic sound of typing filled the air, phones rang incessantly, and employees hurried to and from meetings, all while trying to keep pace with the demands of the workday. The office had that usual hum of productivity, a backdrop to the daily grind that defined the fast-paced world of business. No one expected anything out of the ordinary to disrupt the flow of their work. Everyone was focused, caught up in their own tasks, and the clock ticked steadily on. Then, without warning, the door to the office opened. A woman stepped inside. She moved through the door with quiet confidence, her steps unassuming. She was dressed casually, jeans and a simple shirt, the kind of outfit you might see anyone wearing after a long day at the office or on their way to run errands. She wasn't adorned in designer clothes or flashy accessories, nothing that would set her apart from the usual crowd of visitors. As she walked past the reception area, a few heads turned. Her presence caught the attention of a couple of workers who briefly glanced up from their computers. There was nothing particularly remarkable about her entrance. No fanfare, no entourage, just a woman moving calmly through the office space. She blended in effortlessly, almost like any other guest who had come to drop something off or ask a quick question. But while the employees continued with their busy tasks, oblivious to the woman's true identity, what they didn't realize was that this was no ordinary visitor. This was a Hollywood legend, a name that most of the world would recognize in an instant. Yet, in this moment, she was just another face in the crowd, her fame unrecognized in the flurry of corporate activity. In the midst of the everyday hustle, the office continued on as usual, unaware that history had quietly walked throughout inside the office, the hum of the workplace remained uninterrupted. The employees, each wrapped up in their own tasks, moved about the space with little awareness of the world beyond their immediate responsibilities. Phones rang, keys tapped furiously, and papers shuffled as the routine of a typical afternoon continued. To anyone looking in, it was just another busy day in the corporate world of Los Angeles. The woman, blending in perfectly with the flow of the office, wandered deeper into the space. She moved with purpose, but without drawing attention. Her jeans and simple shirt, the lack of makeup and ostentation, made her appear like any other person you might find in the midst of a busy office. An outsider who perhaps didn't belong. Wasn't long before one of the employees, who was deep in his work, noticed her moving about the office. He didn't recognize her, and to him, she looked like someone who had simply wandered into the wrong place. With a polite but indifferent air, he approached her. His voice was professional, but there was a trace of dismissal in his tone, as if this was nothing out of the ordinary. "Sorry, this is a private office for employees only," he said, the words polite but firm, as though he had issued such reminders many times before. The woman paused, clearly surprised by the interaction. Her eyes flickered with a hint of confusion, but she quickly composed herself. She nodded, acknowledging the misunderstanding, and turned to leave. No one around her seemed to notice the slight tension in the air. The employee, now satisfied that he had done his duty, returned to his desk, while others continued typing away, their minds elsewhere. The woman, now exiting the office, blended seamlessly back into the crowd of the building's common areas. What the employee, and indeed everyone else in the office, failed to recognize was that the woman they had just asked to leave wasn't just any ordinary passerby. She was none other than Angelina Jolie, one of the most famous and beloved actresses in the world. Known for her iconic roles in films, her humanitarian work, and her global fame, she was a name that millions would recognize instantly. Yet, in this moment, she was nothing more than a regular woman in a casual outfit, slipping by unnoticed, in the busy atmosphere of a corporate office. And as she disappeared into the corridors, still carrying the air of someone accustomed to a certain level of public attention, the office went back to its normal rhythm, none the wiser to the brush with celebrity that had just unfolded. A few minutes had passed since the brief encounter, with the woman who had slipped quietly into the office unnoticed. The buzz of office activity continued as before. Phone calls were still being answered, emails being sent, and meetings scheduled. The usual hum of productivity filled the air. However, everything changed when another employee, stepping out for a quick coffee break, happened to glance toward the exit. At first, he barely noticed her. She was just another person leaving the building. But something about her presence tugged at his memory. He paused, doing a double take. His gaze sharpened, and he watched her for a moment longer. Then it clicked. His eyes widened in disbelief as he recognized her face. "Wait! That's Angelina Jolie!" he shouted, his voice rising with the shock of the realization. The office froze. Conversations ceased, phone calls were abruptly halted, and heads turned in unison as the words registered. The atmosphere shifted in an instant, from the mundane grind of everyday tasks to a wave of confusion and amazement. The employee, still in disbelief, rushed to tell his colleagues. "That was Angelina Jolie. I just saw her walking out of here." The murmurs spread like wildfire, the room filled with a mix of disbelief and excitement. Some employees couldn't believe their ears. Others scrambled to recall the moment the EA woman had passed through their midst. That was her? Really? The office was in a frenzy. The mundane day now turned upside down by the realization that one of the most famous women in the world had just been dismissed as an ordinary visitor. As soon as the workers connected the dots, the embarrassment quickly set in. They had asked Angelina Jolie to leave without recognizing her. The tension in the air grew thick as employees rushed to figure out how they could make things right. Realizing the gravity of the mistake, the office scrambled to locate her. The boss security team was quickly dispatched to search the building's exterior, and within moments, they had spotted the woman outside, casually walking away as if nothing had happened. The employees, now fully aware of the blunder they had made, gathered together and rushed toward her, their faces filled with regret. "Wait! Please, we're so sorry!" one of them called out. "Please come back, we didn't know, please!" There was urgency in their voices, a mix of apology and disbelief. The woman, already a few steps ahead, stopped when she heard them approach. As the group of employees hurried toward her, they collectively realized the magnitude of what had just occurred. They had asked one of Hollywood's brightest stars to leave the office, without ever realizing who she was. The tension was palpable, and all the employees could do now was apologize profusely, hoping to somehow undo the awkwardness of their mistake. They didn't know how she would respond, but they were desperate to make amends. As the employees hurried toward Angelina Jolie, their faces a mix of regret and embarrassment, they braced themselves for a potential confrontation. They had just made a monumental mistake, asking one of the world's most famous actresses to leave their office, and they had no idea how she would react. Would she be offended, annoyed? Would she turn them away entirely? But to their surprise, Angelina handled the situation with remarkable poise and grace. She turned to face the group of employees with a calm smile, her expression warm and unbothered. For a moment, she simply looked at them, her gaze kind and understanding. "It's really okay," she said, her voice soft but firm. "Mistakes happen." Her words were simple, yet they carried an air of calm reassurance. Instead of being upset or frustrated, she put everyone at ease. There was no hint of anger or irritation, just a quiet understanding that in this fast-paced world sometimes things go wrong, and that was perfectly fine. The employees, still recovering from the shock of the situation, couldn't help but feel a little embarrassed at how easily she had let the whole incident slide. They had expected someone of her status to perhaps be more distant or irritated, but instead, she responded with grace, showing them that even in the face of such an awkward moment, kindness and humility were always the right responses. Jolie's demeanor, poised and kind, helped to smooth over the tension that had built up in the room. As she made her way back into the office, the workers followed, still in awe of how effortlessly she had turned a potentially uncomfortable situation into something far more lighthearted. The whole office seemed to breathe a collective sigh of relief. In that brief exchange, Jolie had not only displayed grace under pressure, but she had also taught the employees a valuable lesson in humility and kindness. She wasn't just one of the biggest stars in Hollywood. She was a person who understood that mistakes were a part of life and that there was no need to make a big deal out of them. Her warm smile and easygoing nature left a lasting impression on the office. The embarrassment of the moment was replaced with admiration for how she had handled it, showing them that, in a world often consumed by status and ego, it was possible to remain humble and gracious, no matter the circumstances. The story quickly spread across the office. Employees who had witnessed the incident couldn't stop talking about it. The mistake became the talk of the day, how they'd failed to recognize one of the most famous people in the world, and worse, asked her to leave. As the day went on, everyone reflected on the lesson they'd learned. It wasn't just about the embarrassment of the moment. It was about the reminder that even the most famous people sometimes enjoy being treated like normal people. No matter how many movies they've starred in or how many awards they've won, they're still human, and a little respect and kindness go a long way. When Angelina Jolie left the office, she left behind a powerful message. Despite her fame, she showed everyone that it's the little acts of grace and humility that truly define someone. The employees, now with a deeper understanding of respect, felt grateful for the unexpected encounter. This story is entirely fictional. If you enjoyed this content and want to hear more, don't forget to hit that subscribe button.